I was 9 years old when we moved to Winkler. We were just outside of Winkler, and I was on this bus. This bus came to pick me up on 15th Street, and in the back there was this young girl that saved a seat for me. And every morning I would get on that bus, there was always an empty seat for me right beside this girl. And then years we connected in school, and later on, I guess we were around the age of 20. And one evening I just had to drive down Main Street a few times, which in those days everybody drove down Main Street.
Yep.
And we ended up parking on a parking lot, and we started talking, and we were there, I guess, a few hours that evening, and the rest is history. It's been a very interesting life together. We've had our ups and downs, but hey, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this last November, and hopefully we have many more to go.
Yes, congratulations on 40 years. That's an incredible milestone and hard to believe as well. So Darlene, was it that quick for you as well, where you were like, oh, this guy is the bee's knees?
Well, yeah, like we hung out that evening. We didn't stay in separate vehicles all evening. We kind of went out cruising together after that. That's a story in itself, but not for the air. But anyway, we just connected so well. We talked and we talked and we talked. And it was that night actually that he said, can I see you again on, I don't remember the day, but I said, yeah, sure. It was actually kind of funny because he asked me if he could see me that day, and I said, you can, but I'm going to look a little different because I'm going to have a perm. And he burst out laughing. He says, no, don't even go there. Because all he knew of perms was his mom's short curly hair.
Right.
And he thought he was going to come pick up this woman that looked like his mom. So we started dating on February 8th, which is so close to Valentine's Day, right? And on Valentine's Day, he gave me this card. And I still remember the feeling inside of me when I received this card, because I thought, whoa, this guy means business. Because it was about like giving me all his love, and then it was signed Loud Bernie, and I thought, whoa, that's heavy. And it meant a lot to me. Like I just thought, wow, like he really loves me.
Not to mention that she comes from Carmen before she moved to Winkler, and she said she would never married a person from Winkler, but then she married a Bernie, so that brought up quite a bit.
Like I'm not at all ashamed to be a Mennonite or anything like that, and I love my Bernie Goertzen, but I did not want a Mennonite name.
Right.
But the Mennonite isn't in the name, like.
No, that's the Mennonite is in the food.
And the food, right?
Exactly.
November
4th, 1984 at 4 p.m.
Wow, okay.
Well, we couldn't do it before because I was farming. I'm actually still involved in the same farm as 40 years ago. But we couldn't do it in September because, well, you know what farmers do. They don't have time for any of this wedding stuff.
Right, you got to harvest.
But that's why we had to wait till the harvest was done, and I had some off time.
Totally.
And there was a reason we got married at 4. I wanted to have a relaxing wedding day. I didn't want stress. So we got up that morning and we all went with the wedding party. We went to what used to be the golf course, which is now Mulligan's. Mm-hmm. We went out for breakfast and we sat and just had such a great brunch or breakfast together. And then we went our separate ways. And our hairdresser at that time was Brenda Hildebrandt. Just loved her then, love her now. And she came to our house, to my house, to do all the girls' hair. And then she went to the guys' house to do all their hair. And in the meantime, things were different back then. That's 40 years ago. I was doing my wedding party's nails. But yeah, there's pictures of me doing their nails. And my youngest sister, Corey, she was our candle lighter. And I did her makeup for her. And
wow.
Yeah, so it was just relaxing. I still remember the moment that the flowers arrived at the house and how ecstatic I was to see them. And yeah, it was just such a relaxing, wonderful day, exactly like I wanted it to be. I've got a friend who posts pictures of her wedding on social media as well during their anniversary time. And every time she posts the pictures, I look at it I jump when I see it because I think, why is she posting pictures of our wedding? Because the color scheme is the same, like the hat, the whole deal. Like, oh yeah, hats were very common back then.
Okay.
What wasn't common though was like we didn't have, like when you went to buy your dress, we didn't have iPhones so that we could see ourselves. But Atlanta J's at that point in Winkler, she allowed me to take, or somebody to take pictures of me in each dress I tried on. And then I decided on a dress, and I thought I loved it, but I couldn't quite decide between two. So we decided to buy that. And I said, when we get the pictures developed, because we had to do that, can I change my mind? And I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Once you saw it on yourself
Yep.
outside of the store.
Yep.
Wow.
It's different on a picture than it is in a mirror.
It's been tough with our health problem because time that, and I went back to work after in 2019 when I had my heart attack. I was off for 4 years, and I slowly went back to work, and it took me a while to get back into that system because my brain was still where I used to be. But I think we got to figure it out, and it just takes two people to make a marriage work. Like one person can't do it alone. It takes a lot of work and hard work, but we're glad that we are where we are. I don't know what God has planned for me for my health. Right now, I feel good, and also for Darlene's MS. We don't know what the plan is for that, but hey, we take one day at a time and enjoy each other. And
Yeah, it's actually my mom's wedding dress in that box. My parents were married on June the 28th, 1952. And when Mom was downsizing, she didn't know what to do with her dress, and I said, "You are not getting rid of that dress." So I've kept it. To me, it's just special. I know it's there. It's not like I take it out of the box often. It's not like I could ever try it on because my mom was just a little twig when she got married. But yeah, it's just really special for me to have that.
And for the folks who are listening, what are your parents' names? Your mom and then your late father?
Frank and Margaret Letkeman. They lived a chunk of their marriage in the Graysville area, and then moved to the Winkler area. And my dad was a bus driver for many years. Many people in this area, especially the Green Farm, Rheinfeldt people, will remember my dad. And my mom was just the most devoted, faithful wife and mother. I always say she was like back in the day, you carried your husband's name. So my mom was always Mrs. Frank Letkeman.
Right.
And then when my dad passed away, we were just all so sad. But my mom found a new identity, and she became Margaret Letkeman. And I don't say that in a negative way because my dad never had her under his thumb. It wasn't like that. They were just a team. And that was just the way you referred to people then. But she has just carried on. She is 97 and a half years old now, and she continued. Gonna get choked up here. She just continues to be a light in our lives. She's still fully engaged in our lives, and we are so thankful that she chose to live after Dad passed away. Within the first 4 years of our marriage, we had 2 children. He had spent 2 months in the hospital with an illness that we weren't even sure what it was, ended up being transferred to the rehab in Winnipeg, where they finally diagnosed him, and then he had to go through therapy. He couldn't walk at all, and we had 2 babies, and we journeyed through that together. And then he was off work for most of that next year, so I had to go back up just a wee bit. Our firstborn stopped breathing in my arms when he was a newborn, and he started again. Like I lived close to my parents, ran to their place. My dad knew CPR, and then we flew to Morton Hospital at that time. From there, he was transferred to Winnipeg, where they diagnosed what was wrong with him, and he spent a week in ICU. That was before cell phones, and we couldn't, I had to get a message to Crakers where Bernie worked, and they had to get a hold of him on the field through radios and stuff. So within 4 years, that happened to him. Bernie was sick. We had just had our second child. She was a month old when this happened. And she was months old when I was at the clinic with her and talking to the doctor about some things. And he said, "Oh, sounds like you might have multiple sclerosis," which I knew nothing about. And I went, "Oh, that's interesting," which started that journey. And then 3 years later, we had child number 3. Bernie was back at work. I was doing okay, but I'd gone through a pile of tests to see if they could figure out for sure what was going on until I got pregnant with child number 3, and the tests stopped. Shortly after she was born, I was diagnosed. So then we've gone through the MS journey together, and then in 2019 he had a heart attack and subsequent cardiac arrest, where our whole world stopped when his heart stopped. And I just think that as we've gone through all of this, all it's done is drawn us closer, because when I'm down, he picks me up. When he's down, I go to bat for him. But that's not to say we haven't had our problems. Like, yes, we are probably deeper in love now than we've ever been. But we went through a really rough patch. And I'm not embarrassed to say that we went through that rough patch. I'm embarrassed to think about some of the things that we went through during that, because it was hard stuff. I would have bailed. I'm just being fully honest here. But for him, it was not even maybe. When I made that commitment, and there's nothing we can't work through. And it was when I recognized that, first of all, we had taken a step away from what grounded us in the first place, which was our faith. And that had become less important to us. We still went to church every Sunday, but we weren't actively growing in our faith. And it was when we stepped away from that we stepped away from our commitment to each other in so many big and small ways. It was when I realized that, just like I've told my kids all through their life, you can't change anybody but yourself. Don't try to change people. You can change yourself. And when I realized that it was me that needed to change, instead of me being unhappy with things that I thought he needed to change, then our life changed. Don't be afraid to get married, just because there's going to be tough times, but don't give up. Like, work through them, and really actually pull out the old albums sometimes and look at the pictures and the notes that you wrote back then, because it just lights a fire inside of you and reminds you where your love began and how much you loved each other back then. I remember on our wedding day, like, it was such a great day, and I remember I had this brainwave that instead of us having our backs to the congregation, we should stand on the stage and look at the congregation, because why would they want to look at our backs? They wanted to see the front of us, right? And I remember we walked out after the service, and the pastor looked at me and he says, "You didn't hear a thing I said." And I said, "Nope, but we have a CD," or not a CD, we had a tape to listen to it later, because, oh no, I didn't hear it. But we have listened to it multiple times since.
Yeah.
But it was just such a joy. And I remember how bad my face hurt after our wedding day.
I'm smiling.
Yeah. So if you are getting married, enjoy the day. Just don't sweat the small stuff. And in the marriage too. And don't try to change the person that you fell in love with.